A very good evening and warm welcome to the faculty and students from various institutions and all present here on behalf of Aditya Academy of Architecture and Design. I'm Architect Subhashri, Assistant Professor of Triple AD, will be a moderator for the day. Before we begin with the session, I want to make the announcement to the participants to ensure an uninterrupted session. All the participants are requested to mute their audio and video. If any questions are there during the session, you can drop in your questions in the chat box and it will be answered at the end of the session. Thank you for your cooperation and kind attention. Now I would request Architect Sita to play the video.
Tome, which mainly consists of these two vertical posts and has this horizontal member which is on top. And you need to remember they might even ask you a question saying that what is the horizontal member that is seen in a dolmen tone. So that is referred to as. And then there were structures which were grouped together in a circular form. They were referred to as your cromlechs. So mainly one of the important examples as seen today is the Stonehenge, which is again one of the imposing structures which is located in England. It was between 2800 to 1500 BCE, where the stones were taken from Wales, which is again 200 kilometers away. And these also consist of an outer ring, as you can see in the plan, which is on the right. It has this outer ring and also consists of an innermost ring of stones which are aligned in the form of a circle. And then the innermost one in the shape of a horseshoe shaped ring. And one of the important concept that these people used were the trabeated style of construction. That is nothing but again the inspiration is taken from your dolmens itself, where you have these vertical posts and the horizontal member. So that was also referred to as the triathlons in your Stonehenge monument. And even till date, we don't know the actual purpose why it was actually constructed. So mainly it is said that it was believed to be a ceremonial site, a pilgrimage destination, or it could be like a final resting place for the royalty. And it was also used as a solar observatory. And then, like I already told you, first it was the nomadic kind of lifestyle, and then they started slowly settling down. So that is where the setup of these small villages, etc., where people with a common culture started living together. So that was referred to as your civilizations. And before we head on to the river valley cultures or the civilizations that we are going to study, let us just get into the timeline, how it actually evolved. So first, initially, it was the Indus Valley civilization, which emerged along the river Indus around 2800 BCE. And then due to flooding, etc., it vanished around 1700 BCE. And then came in the Aryan tribes who began to infiltrate into the northern India as well as the from Central Asia. And then came in the spread of they started spreading in and around the northern India as well as along the Middle East. And then these two religions emerged. One is the Buddhism as well as the Jainism. So in this again, this again flourished and lasted for about 800 years. So one of the important civilization that we'll go about study is about the Indus Valley culture and why they started settling down along the rivers. So mainly because it is rich in soil and it helps us in irrigation facilities for the crops, and then it helps in easy transportation, and this also helps in good trading, right? So what were the different civilizations that took place? So mainly along the river Indus, it was the Harappan civilization, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, or it is also referred to as the Indus Valley civilization. The second would be the land between the two rivers, that is along the river Tigris and the Euphrates. It is mainly the Mesopotamian civilization. And then comes your Egyptian civilization along the river Nile. And then we have the Chinese civilization, which took place along the Yellow River. So these were the different civilizations. So before we get into the details of each of the civilization, let us study about the first one, that is the Indus Valley civilization, where how it started around the 2600 BCE, which is located in the present day Pakistan. And there were different kinds of elements, like they were very good in town planning concepts. And then it flourished based on like how they started started setting up their houses, the construction of like a protected it from the floods because it was close to the river, and then how they started using water reservoirs, and they had these public space that is nothing but your great bath, and then how each of the houses were provided with good sanitation facilities, and it had the centralized drainage system for disposal of the waste from the house. So that was again based on the gravity concept. So this could be another important point. So the city of Mohenjo-daro was again divided into the upper town and the lower town. So mainly upper town consists of the citadel area, mainly all these official buildings, administrative buildings, etc. were located on top for the residential purpose. So let us get into let us look into a few of the images, mainly how the street pathways were planned. That is the grid iron kind of planning is what they followed. So this also you can make a note that it was the grid iron kind of planning. And then how the great bath was located, they even had these small staircases. They even thought of having levels. It was not just defined for the ground floor itself. They had these different levels where they started constructing these small staircases leading to the different levels, mainly for either for pouring water, etc. And also you can see how the access to the great bath is also given in the image which is located below. And they had these water reservoirs, mainly the wells, etc. And then how the irrigation facilities were planned out. And then this is the usage of these corbelled arches. And then each of the streets were again connected with the sewer lines taken from the individual houses, and had these paths which were covered with the stone slab, because they even thought of servicing all of this if there could be any issues. So that was the kind of planning that these people followed. And then we'll be heading on to the Indian architecture, like how all these set a foundation for the evolution of what we even follow till date. And then we have our evolution of temple architecture itself. So mainly we observe that Vedic age is also referred to the time span between the end of Indus Valley civilization and also the rise of first Indian empire under the Mauryans. So mainly here we observe that the emergence of four Vedas, that is the Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajurveda, and Atharvana Veda. And we also the emergence of the rock cut architectural phase. So there were two kinds of phases. One is the rock cut style, and the other could be the structural temples. So how these people started setting up a small village is what we'll be able to understand over here. They had these small elements it is something like a gated community. You have these set of people with a like-mindedness stay together, and in order to protect their whole vicinity, they had these gateways, etc. And that gateway over here was again inspired by your the trabeated style of construction itself, mainly consisting of these two vertical pillars and then horizontal members. So that can be replicated or inspired in your Buddhist architecture, where you will be observing that the material usage will be different over here. So it is mainly the usage of stones, and they also had these walled and moated cities. And you can observe that they started using these arches that was again designed under
ಏನಪ್ಪ
guys, just mute your audios.
ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಇಟ್ಬಿಡಿ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಕರೀತಾರೆ ಇದು ನೀನೆ ಗಾನ ಬರೀತಾರೆ ತಿನ್ಬೇಡ ಏನು ಅಡ್ಡ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಡ
Students, can you just mute your mics?
ಜಾನವರಿ ಕತ್ತೆ ಮಾರೆ
Guys, just mute your audios.
ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಅವಲೇ ಬಂದಿಯಲ್ಲ
Just let us just move ahead. So it was the beginning of the construction or the evolution of your temple architectural phase. So that was again inspired from the early tents, you can call it, where they had these wooden structures again, like a pyramidical roof, that again led to the evolution of our temple architecture. Like like how are you guys able to relate it to your initial slide that we studied about prehistoric period, where we saw these structures, and then again how over a period of time it got developed, and the same concept or the principle is again used in these buildings itself. So that became like a prototype kind of a structure where they started exploiting and checking the strength of the materials in itself. Maybe because mainly initially they started these gateways, construction of these gateways with the use of the timber or the bamboos, etc. And then how the same thing got replicated with the stone material. So they had these pillars. Mainly the pillar is, it could be like a commemorative structures in itself. So one of the example is the victory pillar at Chittor. And these columns can be divided into three parts. One is the base, the central portion referred to as your shaft, and then you have your capital design, which is on top. And this again led to the construction of the initial temples, that is the rock cut phase, where you have these chaitya halls, and then and then for the priests again to uh, settle down, they started something called as the viharas, which is also referred to as your Buddhist monasteries. And this again led to the design of the burial mounds that was referred to as your stupas. The inspiration was again based on the prehistoric funerary grounds, that is the tumulus, like we studied, right? The first one was the earthen mound, the simplest one. And then it became the dolmens, and then you have the Stonehenge. In a similar way, for the construction of stupas, it was taken from your prehistoric period itself. That is your earthen mound, which was referred to as the cumulus. Mainly, it consists of again a four entry gateways, which were referred to as the toranas. And then you have these ambulatory passages, which is again at the upper level as well as the lower level, that you can clearly it is labeled as the balustrades, the railing portion. And then you have this semicircular domical roof, and on top of which you have this harmika, and then it is topped by a chhatri. And this is also one of the UNESCO World Heritage site, which is located in Madhya Pradesh, that is in Sanchi town, which was the construction started between the 3rd century BCE. So, like I already told you, based on the different scriptures, etc., or the books, the ancient town planning techniques were so important. 8 types you will have to remember. One is the Dandaka, Nandyavarta, Sarvatobhadra, Swastika, Prastara, Padmaka, and Karmuka, and Chaturmukha. So these are the 8 types of planning systems. So they can ask you how many types of ancient town planning principles were seen in Indian architecture. So this could be another important question that you need to remember. And then we have the other civilizations, which I already mentioned. That is the next one would be the ancient Near East architecture. So ancient Near East again deals with the different phases. Mainly there were the first civilizations where the Akkadians actually occupied both the northern as well as the southern part. Then comes your Babylonian architecture, where we'll see this composition of the legal text that took place between 1755 to 1750 BC. It was also referred to as the Code of Hammurabi. And then we have the Assyrians and the Persians. So what were the structures these people designed, and what was the important materials that these people used? So materials that they used were again the clay, soil, the reeds, etc., and the sun-dried or the kiln-dried bricks. So these people had this common belief that their gods lived in the sky. So that is why they started reaching out to the sky, whereas they started believing that they are in contact with the god. Okay, so that is where they started building these tower kind of structures, which are called as the ziggurats. Ziggurats is again a religious building which is either built next to a temple or has a temple which is located on top of this tower. So it was all have 2 tiers or 2 or 3 tiers, etc. And these temples were again guarded with the help of these chief portals, which were referred to as the colossal winged bulls. So this could be another important question for you guys. So what were the different kinds of structures they started constructing? One is the temples, which were referred to as the ziggurats, and they were guarded with the help of these colossal winged bulls. And they also had these oval temples, mainly. This is one such example where they have divided it into a public zone where it is marked in red. You can observe that it was mainly for administrative purpose and offices which were located. And then you have these blue zone, mainly like a shopping kind of a center, okay, like having these storage rooms and other workshop areas. And then the green temple, the green part where you can see is the temple which is located on top. And they also had not only had temples, they also had palaces. So one of the example you need to remember is the palace of Sargon. And then coming on to the very interesting topic, that is the Egyptian architecture. I'm sure the word Egyptian itself takes you to the Mummy trilogy series. You can imagine how the pyramids were located in the desert scenario, and then you have these pharaohs. These are the images, the mental image, right, that you have when you remember or talk about Egyptian architecture. This again takes back to the narrow fertile land along the river Nile. So mainly they had these inscriptions which were written pictorially, that was referred to as your hieroglyphs. So that is one of the image that is seen below. And then they maintained hierarchy where pharaohs were given utmost importance, and then had these nobles, priests, and other army commanders, etc. So that was the kind of hierarchy that these people followed. And the main important concept is they believed in life after death. So that is the afterlife, okay, afterlife concept, where they did not give importance for the the residential buildings as such. They gave importance for the tombs, and then mainly they believed that the eternal enjoyment of the deceased was given more importance. So that is where they started constructing these uh, the burial monuments, which were referred to as the Great Pyramids, okay. And the overall the city, it was also referred to as the city of dead. Again, the term that is given to is called as the necropolis. So just make a note of this. A city of dead is referred to as necropolis. And they had each of these pyramids. Again, the pyramids were if you observe in the Near East architecture, it was mainly the colossal winged bulls. So that was the kind of that those elements guarded the treasures or the temple, correct. So when it comes to the Egyptian architecture, it is mainly the sphinx. So sphinx is nothing but a lion body with a human face. It is also referred to as your the face of the pharaoh. And each of these capitals, like I already told you, the column was divided into base, the shaft, and the capital, right? So base, the capital over here was again inspired by these uh, inspired by nature, which was mainly the usage of these lotus bud capitals or papyrus leaf capitals, and then also had these palm leaf capitals. So that was the kind of inspiration that they took from from the nature. So other important elements that you need to remember is how the entrance gateway was designed. So mainly it had this monumental monumental entry. They had these commemorative structures. So that was referred to as the obelisk, commemorating the dead, also representing their king and honoring their gods. So whereas in your Indian architecture, it was referred to as the stambhas, right? So one example that we studied is the victory pillar, which was seen in Chittor. So I'm sure, I hope you guys are able to relate each one of it, like the need to study of this particular topic and how the inspiration was taken from the previous architectural style, the evolution mainly, and how the terminologies are again different over here. In the Indian architecture, it was referred to as the stambhas. Over here, it is referred to as the obelisk. And how these interior spaces were lit is mainly by the usage of these clear story windows. So these terminologies are very important for you guys. The entry was referred to as the pylon. The commemorative structures were referred to as your obelisk. And then the lighting or the ventilation was provided with the help of the use of these clear story windows, which are nothing but the windows which are above your eye level, mainly for admitting light and air. And one of the example is you can observe is the Great Hypostyle Hall, at Karnak temple, which is again in Luxor. So they not only had these mortuary temples, they also had these cult temples, okay, mainly worshipping and honoring the god. So one such example is the Temple of Cones. So you'll be able to observe all the elements that we saw in the previous slide. So one is the entry gateway, that is the pylon over here. And then you have this hypostyle hall. And then you have how the interior spaces were lit with the help of these clear story windows. And then we have the sanctuary where actually the idol is placed. So these are all the important points that you need to remember, or the sequence, I could say. Coming to the next important thing, that is the evolution of the pyramids. So how they started with the construction of pyramids. So this also could be another important question. So initially they had these rectangular mound that was referred to as the mastabas. And then slowly they started placing these mastabas in tiers, like by reducing the size of it. That was referred to as your stepped pyramid. Then they started a bit of more experimentation by constructing these bent pyramids. So this is one of the image that you can observe over here is the Snefru's bent pyramid. And then comes in your true pyramid. That is, and one of the famous example, the complex of pyramids, that is the pyramids seen in Giza, where you have the three important structures. One is the pyramid of Khufu, pyramid of Chephren, and pyramid of Menkure. Okay, so one of the largest one among the three is the pyramid of Khufu. And along with these structures, you'll have to observe this whole complex. It was also referred to as the city of the dead, and city of dead is referred to as your necropolis. So I hope you guys are making points of each one of the terms that I'm telling you. So they had these initial stages, that is the mastabas. You can clearly observe it in the plan. They even had like tombs for their queens, then had this avenue which takes you into the entry of this particular pyramid complex, which is again guarded by these swings, that is nothing but a lion body with the face of the pharaoh, right? And this is one of the image which shows the interior of the pyramid, one of the pyramid, the largest one, that is the pyramid of Cheops, or it is also referred to as the pyramid of Khufu, where you have these subterranean chamber where actual the body is laid in rest, and then with all the process of mummification, etc., and even the treasures are again sealed off by again closing of the entry to that whole passage. And then you have this entry where you can enter into the grand gallery, and then you have the king's chamber with along with these air shafts. Okay, and then we head on to the classical architectural phase, that is nothing but your the Greek architecture, their calculations, because there were many philosophers existed during that point of time, that period, who were like namely the Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Pythagoras, and there was also advent in art and architecture as well. So let us study in detail how Greek architecture evolved. Mainly it all started in the Aegean region, as well as mainly along the Greek colonies, that is along Italy and as well as Sicily. Mainly they had these structures, that is again the entrance gateway, the agoras, and then the stoas. So one of the important example that we'll be studying is about Parthenon. It had a lower town and then the upper city, which was referred to as your Acropolis. So agora is a term that you need to remember because it is a place where it served as a gathering place mainly for different various activities. So that is labeled in this particular image. Then we have something called as the stoas. Stoa is nothing but a covered walkway or a portico commonly used for a public building in itself. And then the office spaces or the assembly or the senate spaces were referred to as the bouleuterion. And these people also developed the overall planning of these temples in a rectangular fashion. Like the plan was in the shape of a rectangle, and then had these the entryways which were referred to as the pronaos. These are all the Greek terminologies, okay? So this again varies. In your Egyptians, it was referred to as your pylons, etc., right? And then it had an internal porch. So Over here, it is completely different. Mainly, they had this entryway, which was referred to as the Praneos. Then, where the actual image of the idol is kept is referred to as your cella. And then you have this rear end porch, which was referred to as the opistidomus. So you can observe how the usage of columns have been taken in this particular style, where they started using the trabeated style of construction, where they have these vertical posts and then the horizontal members. So that is the kind of style that we can observe, where again it gets divided into the base, shaft, capital. Then you have a series of the continuous band that is referred to as the architrave, and on top of it you have this frieze, and it is overall topped with the help of this triangular pediment on top. And then these people also developed the three architectural systems, so called as the orders. Okay, so each with their own distinctive proportions and detailing. So the important three orders that we need to remember is the Doric, Ionic, and the Corinthian. Fine. So how the simplest of the pillar, the stone monolith that we observed in your prehistoric period got changed into, like if we observe that the same thing in your Indian architecture, it was again a slightly more detailed kind of a structure. And then whereas when we observe the same thing in Greek, it was mainly divided into three orders with great proportions and precise and with calculations. Okay, so the first simplest form is the Doric order without any base. This originated in the 7th century BC, and then slowly they started experimenting with the materials. That is, one is they started having this base and then the fluted area, which is referred to as your shaft, and then you have the capital design. So in Egyptians mainly we observed the inspiration taken from the nature, right? Maybe it could be the lotus bud or the papyrus leaf capital, etc. So here it is mainly the scroll kind of a motif, that is the usage of the volutes, that is again caters to the design of the capital. So it has more of feminine characteristics is what we can call for the Ionic order. Whereas when it comes to your Corinthian order, it is the highly decorated one. So this could be another important question for you guys, which is one of the most decorated orders seen in Greek architecture. So it was mainly the Corinthian order, where it consists of a base, shaft, and the capital design was mainly with the use of the acanthus leaf. Okay, so this is one point that you need to remember. So these are the difference between the three orders and how they were used in each of the temple construction, etc. So another important structure these people constructed were mainly the theaters, mainly for public entertainment purpose. So how the open air theaters can be divided into, like we know that we know the existence of theaters and how it is right now in the modern day context as well. But during that point of time, they started using these natural slopes itself for the construction of these theaters. So mainly it has this stage area or the performance area, which is referred to as the orchestra, and the seating belt, which is referred to as your theatron, and then has this building with right behind your orchestra, which is referred to as the scene, and then the entry pathways, or the passageways, which is referred to as the parados. Okay, so these terminologies are very important. I know in a short period of time we've compiled a lot of information, but you will have to remember and make note of each of these elements. Okay, so one of the examples that we can observe is the theater of Epidaurus. So other examples you can observe is the Temple of Hera, Temple of Nike, and the Parthenon, which is again seen in Acropolis. And then heading on to the Roman architecture is the ancient, this again comes under the classical architecture in itself. It is nothing but the reproductive form of Greek and the Etruscan architecture, where they started giving importance mainly for the interior spaces. Like interiors were more impressive compared to the exteriors. So some of the important materials that people used were again chalk, sand, pozzolanic concrete, which was termed as opus cementitium. So because of the incorporation of the pozzolanic ash, it prevented the structures from cracking. So you need to make a note of this as well. What was the cement Roman concrete called as? This could be another important question. So the three orders that we studied previously in the Greek architecture was the Doric, Ionic, and the Corinthian, right? So these again added two more orders into the design of into the construction technology. One is the Tuscan order and the composite order. So Tuscan order is mainly the basic form, which is the simplified version of your Doric order in itself. And then composite, as the word itself will suggest us, composite is nothing but the use of two or more elements, right? So here it is a combination of use of the Corinthian as well as your Ionic orders. So that is where the fusion of these two will give us the composite order. That is the usage of acanthus leaf capital and then the volute. If you can observe in the previous image, this is how it looked like in your Ionic order, that is the usage of volutes. Then you have your Corinthian order with the usage of acanthus leaves. Merging of these two will give us the composite order. Fine. So they also started exploiting with the construction techniques. Okay. So initially it was the trabeated style of construction. Here, when it comes to the Roman architecture, they started the construction of these arches. Okay. So arches again, this again led to the construction of the vaults. So arch is mainly, it consists of these elements, that is the usage of these wedge shaped stones, which were referred to as the voisers. And the central stone is referred to as your keystone, which holds the whole arch in place. And then the continuation of the arch is referred to as your vaults. Okay, it is the different terms and how the modification of the arch led to the evolution of the vaults. It is nothing but a series of arches, and how they started using all of these in their structures, mainly to go give the greater heights to the buildings. Okay, one is the barrel vault, and then the intersection of the barrel vaults were referred to as your groin vaults. And they also had these aqueducts, mainly which carried water from the miles to the overcrowded cities. So one of the example you can observe, this is nothing but a reservoir, right? The concept of a reservoir where the water is stored, and then you have these conduits which take in the water with the help of these aqueduct bridge to the main city. So that is how the water was carried from the reservoir to your cities. So one of the examples that you need to remember is the Pont du Gard, which was again built by architect Marcus Agrippa, which date back to about 20 to 16 BC. And then the other important the structure is the temple again, the Pantheon. Okay, mainly it is composed of simple geometric forms. That is, one, you have this triangular porch, the entry porch, and then which is capped by a triangular pediment on top. And then you have this circular drum, which is located behind, where it consists of these small niches where the idols and other things are kept. And it also has this circular opening, which was referred to as oculus. If you can observe in the aerial view, it has this circular cutout, right? Mainly for lighting purpose. So that was referred to as the oculus. And these people had these Roman forums, mainly for public meetings, law courts, etc. So that the meeting area in your Greeks were referred to as your agoras. So here it is referred to as the Roman forum. And then the administrative buildings were referred to as the basilicas. Okay, so that led to the design of the Christian churches as seen even today. So, and they also had these bath complexes, which were referred to as the thermes. And example is the therme, which is seen in Caracalla. And there were different parts to the therme itself, the Roman baths mainly. They had these dressing rooms. It was planned out in such a way that they gave importance for everything, like the different stages that is involved. One is the dressing room, then you have this cold bath, then the warm bath. The apoditerium is referred to as your dressing rooms. And then the warm bath is referred to as stipidarium. And then the cold bath is referred to as your frigidarium. Okay. So these are some of the terms that you need to pay attention. And then the houses, the residential style mainly was referred to as the domus. and then the apartment buildings. So they started even going higher and higher. It was not confined for the ground level in itself. So they started going higher and higher, which were referred to as the modern day condominiums. So that was referred to as insulates. And they had these commemorative structures again over here. So that was referred to as your triumphal arches. So I hope you're able to relate it. So initially it was just that upright stone, and that became the stamba. And then in your Egyptians, it was referred to as the obelisk. And then we coming on to the Romans, we have these triumphal arches. You need to correlate with the previous topics that we have studied. And they also started designing these amphitheaters as mainly for the public, having conducting all these games, sports, and other display areas which happens. And the spectacular one of the examples is the Colosseum, which is again seen in Rome. And then comes the early Christian architecture. So here it is mainly the belief that Jesus was the Christ, and then he was also referred to as the Son of God, right? And they started spreading the stories of Jesus, the life and his teachings, etc. And then the beginning of the 4th century, Christianity was growing mystery religion in the cities of the Roman world. So it is also said that Rome becomes Christian, and Constantine builds churches. So this was the stage where the construction of churches began. That is nothing but the Constantine to want to construct groups in order to honor the Christianity, mainly the religion. So basically here they started using these Roman basilicas, which we discussed previously. If you can see, this particular image refers to the function of a building as that of a particular meeting hall, right? So this was the basic model that these people took in the design of their churches. So this is the how they started taking inspiration from the previous architectural styles in itself. Okay. And one of the important examples is the old St. Peter's Basilica, that is again in Rome. The basilica was torn down again in 16th century, and it was replaced by the new St. Peter's that is seen today in present Vatican City, that is again in Rome. So we need to remember, when we remember churches, it is again, we remember this long nave, and then you have the end of it is again aligned with the axis where the altar is actually placed. And we remember the cross-shaped kind of plans, right? So it mainly has this entrance gatehouse, and then we enter into the atrium. So this is one of the examples, that is the old St. Peter's Basilica. Okay, this is no more. And we have this new one that again you will be seeing it in the further slides. So it has these the usage of atriums, and then you have this entry porch, or the entry space, which leads you into the nave area, that was referred to as the narthex. So this can be another important question. So they might ask you in such a way that what was the entry to the church referred to as? They might give you 4 or 5 options, that is the narthex, atrium, pylons, etc. It should not be. You need to understand that the difference between the terminology is given in each of the different periods. So here it was referred to as the narthex, and then you have this central nave area acting as the axis, and then you have the crossing that happens over here, that is the nave, and then the transept, and below the transept is where you have your altar. And it could be a rectangular end, or it can have this apsidal end. Apsidal is nothing but your curved shape end to the church. Okay, so these are some of the images. This is the image that we saw in a sketch form over here. So this is the reconstructed image of the old St. Peter's, and then some of the other early Christian structures. They not only had these church buildings, they also had these baptistries and tombs that were designed. So next, my colleague will be heading on to the medieval architectural phase.
Everyone, now we'll be looking into the next following architecture, which is Byzantine architecture. So Byzantine architecture started during the period 330 to 1453 CE. So Roman Empire was divided into Eastern Empire and Western Empire. So the Eastern Empire was later called as the Byzantine Empire, from where the Byzantine architecture actually evolved. So the architectural features of Byzantine Empire are, geometrically, the building geometry was very complex, comparing the other periods. Like now it is getting complicated. Like you saw in previous slides, it was one story, then came the three-story. Now it is complexity. Using the geometry itself, it started building up so much. So the materials they used were the brick, plaster, stones were the prominent materials they used during this period. Like you could have seen in previous slides, the orders like Doric order, Corinthian order, Ionic order. So every type of orders were also used in Byzantine architecture. But in this one peculiar thing is, here they started using the mosaic ornaments instead of decorating so much. They started using the mosaic. So you know what is mosaic, right? Like this, you make image out of it. The combination of more colors. So that is how. So they started using mosaics, and it had a huge dome. So what dome is actually, imagine that you have a ball and you cut at the center, so cut in the middle. So that is how the dome, the one half. So that is how the dome is. So using a massive dome, it created a very large space. So as you can look in this picture, so this is the dome. So look at the space, how volume, how big it is. So on using this. So and they started using the coffered ceilings. You can see all those recessed part in dome. No, those are called as coffered thing, coffered ceilings. Okay, and they had the arcades around the entire dome. So these are the arcades. Like you have the cutout, window cutout. No, so they are the arcades. So these type of, like here also you can see that you have arcades here. So here you have the, just a second. So you can see that these are the arcades. Okay. So this type of arcades were used in a major scale, and the introduction of pendentive were used. So this is dome, the upper part, this is dome, and these are the arches. Can you see the thing I'm drawing? The intersection part is the pendentive part. Okay. So this part, they started using this type of support in for placing the dome. So intersection area of dome and two supporting arches is the pendentive. And internally, when you look at the internal areas of Byzantine architecture, churches or anything else, so when you look at the internal areas of any churches or anything, it will be very much decorated. Like you'll have marble carvings, mosaic applied. Whereas the external here, you can see the features that it is very plain. And the doors and windows were used of a column. What is that? Used of circular headed columns. Like you can see the circular headed columns for everywhere here. The windows they have used the circular column, and doors they have used the circular columns. And the major two type of plants were the Greek cross and Latin cross plants. So I guess you know what is plan. The without the roof, when you look from the aerial view of something is the plan. Okay, so usually their plants were of Greek cross and Latin cross. The Greek cross, the four arms will be equal, and the Latin cross, which is the vice versa of Greek cross. Uh, so the major example of Byzantine architecture is Hagia Sophia, which is in Constantinople Church, Turkey. So it was built during the 6th century, and it is considered as a best piece of Byzantine architecture, which remained as a largest cathedral for almost 1,000 years. And you can see the central dome here, and surrounding you have four minarets. You have the tower kind of thing. No, these are called the minarets. So they have the four minarets around that, and it has a two floors. So it is two-floored structure, and it has the diameter of a dome is around 31 meter, and from the center to the crown of the dome, which is 55 meters. So initially, this was used as a cathedral, Then later on, initially it was used as cathedral because the emperor was a Christian emperor, and later on it was won by Islam this thing, so it was converted to mosque, and now it is a museum. So you can see the amalgamation of Roman and the Christian architecture there. Okay, next comes the another example of this period is Saint Mark, which is in Venice. So it is actually a blend of many foreign, like you have so many architecture, like you have seen no previous things. So it was a combination of many architecture examples, and the exterior walls are shining walls. So they have used a material such that it would shine, and it was another next to Hagia Sophia. It was one more prominent landmark or masterpiece of Byzantine architecture. Now we are moving to the Romanesque architecture. So this type of architectural style prevailed in the medieval Europe, developed in Italy and Western Europe between Roman and Gothic style. Okay, so the attributes of this style are the rounded arches, like you can see the rounded arches here, and the substitution of piers on columns. So you know what is columns, right? So pier is like column, but it will have a wider base, so it will be in a very larger size, so that is called as spires. And decorative use of arcades. In previous slide I have shown the arcades. So the this type, no, here you have this whole this thing, the what is it, you have the repetition of the arches which becomes the arcades, and in this period the development of vaults started. So development of vault started. These are the vaults. Vault is the I'll show you here. These are the vaults. So in this period that the vault started developing, and you can see the flying buttresses also in this period. So these are the flying buttresses. Flying buttresses are those which actually take the support or weight from the wall to the ground in case if the building is too heavy to handle. So in such a case they give the flying buttresses. Okay, so during this period only they actually started building larger span buildings, like you have like the domestic buildings, like palaces, commercial premises, city walls. Everything was started like they only by then they started exploring with, because they have got the huge domes. So they started exploring with all these larger buildings, which is a very of larger span. So now Pisa Cathedral is a very famous example and very prominent example of Romanesque architecture. So which is in Pisa, Italy. Everyone knows that. So the architect is Buscito, and it was built during 1063 to 1350. And the walls of Pisa Cathedral, or the Pisa Leaning Tower of Pisa itself, is white and pink marble. So you have beside the Pisa Cathedral, you have the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So now the cathedral is the cathedral which is actually there. It is an imitation of which was there previous, because the original one was destroyed in fire. So interior, you can when you look at the interior of Pisa Cathedral, it will be actually of black and white marbles with copper ceilings. Copper ceilings I have shown you in previous slides. So it has a five facades. You can see in this. It has a five facades. Mm, so it has a five facade, and they have a separate viewing platform for women. So one of the main examples is the Pisa Cathedral here. So now we are coming to the Gothic architecture. So Gothic architecture actually evolved from Romanesque and succeeded by the Renaissance architecture. It actually started during the mid of 12th century to the late 16th century. So the attributes of Gothic architecture were pointed arches, like you can see here, you have the pointed arches, and ribbed walls. These are the ribbed walls. Like you have the vault beneath which they give the support using like rib kind of thing. So that is called as ribbed walls. And flying buttresses was developed in the previous era, but yeah, the prominent use of flying buttress was done in Gothic architecture. When you see a flying buttresses, it's mostly of a Gothic architecture building only. So I told you what is flying buttresses. It is like for example, above the ground you call it as a superstructure, and below the ground you call it as a substructure. Like you have the foundation, everything. When the building or walls get too heavy, they building or walls get heavy. You give a flying buttresses outside, which is an external support, which actually transfers the weight from the walls to the ground. So that is how the flying buttresses acts. So in Gothic architecture, you can have the stained glasses. You can see many stained glasses. So stained glasses actually give you colorful lighting. So that was also used as a decorative element. And you can see gargoyles. Gargoyles was a very prominent structure in Gothic architecture. Like in case if there is rain, the rain actually deposits on the roof, right? So in order to in order to take the water from the roof, the gargoyle acts as a water spout, or you can call it as a gutter, so that the water comes flows through the gargle and come down, so that it doesn't affect the roof or it doesn't leave stain. So can anyone say why was only the flat roofs were used rather than any other kind of roof? Can someone unmute and say why was it used? Why is everywhere the flat roof, or every roofs are very flat only? Why cannot be like a circular roof or something? Why is that? Can someone answer? Okay, then I myself will say. So in case if the roof is semicircular or hollow on the top, the rainwater gets to deposit on that itself. So that was the reason why only the flat roofs are very much used in every kind of buildings. So now the famous building of Gothic architecture is Notre Dame Cathedral. So it was built during the 1163 to 1250, and it is 130 meters long with 35 meters height. So it is the world famous cathedral because of its sculptures and gargoyles. So I showed you the monstrous this thing. So because you can see many gargoyles there in this cathedral, so because of that itself it was very famous. And around 30,000, 1,300 trees were used in construction. So it is also known as the Forest of West Passage. And the West Passage is notable for two. West Passage is notable for two 69-meter towers. This thing, and the southern tower, you know that every cathedral has a bell. So the bell which is in the south facade is actually 1,300 kg. So that heavy it is. So now Renaissance architecture. Now this type of architecture started during the 14th century to 17th century. It was actually considered as the bridge between Middle Ages and modern history. After this, the modern history, modern this thing starts, modern architecture, everything starts. So it is considered as the bridge. So the period of European culture, artistic, economical, and political rebirth. It is considered as that. Artistic, economical, and everything gave it rebirth. So that is how they say. So Renaissance artistic movement was developed in Italy, and moving from religious institutions. So before this period, all it was only the religious building which was given much of importance comparing other buildings. So from in this period only, they are actually turning like taking the history from the religious building to other form of buildings. So it is considered as a beauty and mystery of natural world and to the individual man, who was considered as the new center of this era. So here only after this the functionalism and everything is coming into play. Before it was mainly of decorative elements, decorative like mosaic and decorative Corinthian columns. So everything was based on decorativism. So after this only the play of a man, like according to his need, what has to be done. So that type of architecture is actually originating from the next this thing only. So it has a symmetrical axial plan. See, every buildings of this architecture will have it will be balanced. Like you can see a symmetrical balance. You can see the symmetry there. So here the use of almost every type of columns they use, like Tuscan, composite, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian. So it was used both structurally and also as an decorative element. So ceilings were generally flat in this type of architecture. Like it was actually the type of ceilings. It was actually taken from Rome and Greece. So the first and most important architect of this period was Filippo Brunelleschi. So he was the very famous architect, and the cathedrals which he built were the Santa Maria di Fiore. So he was one among the one who actually took the Renaissance to other level. And Donato Bamati, so he is the architect of St. Peter's Basilica. So in case if you want, you can just take the screenshot and you can use it for your reference. So there will be slides in which you have many buildings. In further slides, you'll have so many buildings there. So, and the architects also mentioned. So you can just take the screenshot. So now we are looking into the 8th and 9th century revival architecture. So in this type of architecture, actually the revolution actually changed the every aspects of man. Revolution is like industrial revolution. Everything is coming into play only after this period. Like during this period, it starts. So every kind of man's aspect was had impact due to this type of revolution. So introduction of many materials came into play because the construction, metallurgy, innovation, everything started. It was in a boom, right? So then they started using many materials, like new materials, other than in before era. If you see that you'll only use stones, bricks, or plasters. So here they started using iron, glasses, steel, zinc. So new type of buildings like museums, department stores. So they started using so much this thing, and exhibition hall also started emerging because after in why is exhibition hall so prominent in this type of architecture is that after the use of after the invention or discovery of steel itself, they started using the steel frames for a very large span, like for a very large span. They don't need any columns or anything. So that is how the exhibition halls usually don't have any so much columns, right? So that, then the exhibition halls were very prominent during that revival architecture system. You can just take a screenshot of this. So these were the prominent buildings in the revival architecture. So Art Nouveau is a movement which actually came into act because of the art and craft movement which was in Britain, and the Art Nouveau is a very decorative movement. So it is not of any like Art Nouveau itself is a combination of every other elements, like you have Gothic, Renaissance, so Romanesque. So every combination of decorations was done here. So it was not particular to any movement. So it had the imitations of nature, floral style, etc. The Opera House Paris is a neo-Baroque architecture style. So, and you have a Crystal Palace London, so which was designed by Sir Joseph Paxton, who is a famous architect. So it was an, like I told you, it was an very famous exhibition center which was constructed in 1851. So Antonio Gaudi and Eiffel. Right? There are many architects. There are many architects very famous in that type of architecture, but these two are the very pioneer in this thing. So Antonio Gaudi, he is a decorative he is one of his project is the La Sagrada Familia. The facades, if you see at the facades, no, it will be like very decorative. So he was well known for his decorative elements, sculptures, everything. So one of the famous architects, and Eiffel, right? I guess most of you would have known who is Eiffel, right? So Frank Lloyd Wright. So he actually had a career for about 70 years, and according to him, form and function are one. Like that is how he puts the form and function is one to him. And the famous project of Eiffel Rise to the Falling Water, Robbie House, and the Guggenheim Museum, which is very famous for its structure and the materials used. So in his life, he actually finished product. He designed actually 1,000+ projects, and before his death, he actually finished 532 projects. So this is the last and like now what is happening that architecture is this is the modern architecture. So it was a modernistic movement at the turn of 20th century and started with the efforts of reconciling the principles of underlying the architecture design with rapid technological advancement and modernization of society. So the architects, the famous architects of this period are Mies van der Rohe, Le Corbusier, Walter Gropius, Eiffel Wright, Louis Sullivan, Oliver Alta, etc. And there are many more architects to go on. So modern architecture actually evolved because there are actually so many versions of the story that modern architecture, but there are two types that social, because of the social and political revolution, modern architecture came into play, and the technological and engineering development also is the one among the main reasons. So because of industrial revolution and this thing, the availability of steel, iron, etc., paved way for the invention of new building techniques. So modern architecture defined like it has the attributes of the clean lines and minimal. See, you can see the clean lines, like there is no decorative items on the facade, like you can see here. And minimal interior structures based on your rational use of modern material and functional planning. That is how it is done. Modern materials and function, how is it to be done? So that is how it is done. So philosophy, according to the architects of modern architecture, or it should be clean and simple, and the form follows function, like April right said, no? So that is how this thing is. So the materials used in the building are very exposing. Like you can see what is inside into the building. So that is how the materials were, and everything was exposed to the outer world. And in previous architectural, if you see, everything will be plastered, even the this thing, outer facades will be plastered with limestone or something. So here everything, there was nothing to hide. That is how the 20th century modern this thing was, modern architecture was. So it was mainly inspired by the function. So depending upon the function, only the buildings were designed, and the forms and design were kept very simple, unlike other type of architecture. And exposed materials were used. Mm, and everything was linear, very linear. Like you can see, everything will be very easy to understand. Like only because of function, it is designed in such way. Here, they in this type of architecture, they break the thing that in order to look elegant, or in order to look very nice, it is not to be that you should have the over decorative things. So here you can see very nice buildings without any decorations also. So using the normal techniques and everything. So beams, posts, windows, roof lines, etc. were used, and the bold roof lines were maintained in every this thing. The bold roof lines were mostly maintained, and the windows were also an element of design. Like here all you can see that window itself is an element of design. Here all you can use that. So now, materials were focused much more than any other decorative item. So, depending upon the area, depending upon the use, the materials were chosen. So, major materials used during the 20th century is steel and RCC. RCC is reinforced cement concrete. So new type of after introduction of RCC, only actually the new type of skyscrapers actually evolved. They started building the skyscrapers, very big skyscrapers also, glass and everything. I guess you can even take the screenshot of this because there are so many buildings and the architects also. So this is the end of your presentation. And one second. So this is the end of the presentation, and we'll be giving you a question paper for which the we'll be giving a question paper which is in the chat box with a link. So we'll give you 15 minutes so that you can finish the question paper answering which is a multiple choice question.
Guys, the link is shared in the chat box. So you can fill in the details, that is your name and other things that is asked in the form. And there'll be 15 minutes time given. All the best. Time up anyways. Okay, we'll be announcing the results in the end. I mean, not today, the last day of the session. So let us just have a quick discussion, okay? All of you can just come on video and switch on your audios as well. I'm sure all of you would have visited different places or seen images online, etc. So are you able to relate any of the pictures that comes to your mind, like the memorable places that you guys would have visited? You can recall any of it and mention the name as well as the any design elements that you observed throughout the presentation. Anyone, it's just an informal discussion. It's not a question and answer session or anything. All of you can just participate.
What element was very attractive to you? So you can come up with anything around the world. Just speak up.
Anyone?
Participants, you can please switch on your videos and have an interactive session with the presenters. I assume that the form is already submitted, so you can be free of that. And just discuss any building that you feel like, be it Bangalore or international, national, anything as such kinds.
Are you guys with us? There's no response from your end?
I'm sure you guys would have been seeing a lot of temples around, a lot of churches, some of very important monuments around. Any building of your choice.
Shreya, are you there? Shreya, Aditya, Deepika. Soumya. Yes, come on, respond.
Pooja is answering Tanjore temples.
You can unmute and answer.
Please,
You don't have to put it in the chat box.
So, Pooja?
You can come on video, Pooja. Her mic, video, both are blocked.
Siddharth, can you just unmute and unblock the video of one of the participants here? Or at least everybody for a while?
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, yeah. Anyone.
I would say Stupa at Sanchi because of its dome-like structure and the entrance Torana.
Nice.
Okay.
The others?
Kritika, Vaibhav, Soumya. Anyone can answer.
Okay, I guess everybody gotten really busy and too much of brain power getting used there to do this exercise. But well, I do agree that history of architecture is a very vast subject in our discipline, and it needs a lot of terminologies to be registered in mind, and it has a lot of architectural relevances that we still date use. So well, we'll give you that time to indulge yourself in the same. And let's come to the concluding part. Thank you, Harshita and Subhashri, for a very vast subject like history to be compressed and expressed in this session. I'm sure the students at least got an idea and they were able to absorb at least to an extent that it could be done to their capacities. And finally, we'll come to the end of today's presentation. I would like to say thanks again to the presenters for the informative talk and the students for active participation and attention. And thank you for also attempting the Google question and submitting it online. And I would also like to thank the Triple AD faculty and Aditya management for their ever-ending support to us. And on coming Monday, you will be looking in for a different topic under architecture, and that is going to be construction, how construction and construction techniques in architecture. So hope to meet you all on Monday for another eventful and memorable event. So let's look forward to learn together and share information together. Thank you, everybody.